Hey folks, this is a video showing how to connect from C# up to a LocalDb SQL server, and I'm going to do this with a console app using the old-fashioned SQL command. The first thing I'm going to do, because this is going to be part of a document, is I'm heading over to GitHub and I'm going to create myself a repository to hold these examples so that they can be referred to later. If it seems pretty amazing how I can talk and do stuff at the same time, it's because I narrated this later on. And that was the sound of my wife heading out. So I have the house to myself. Woohoo! So yeah, putting in a description, and then we're going to head over to the gitignore. Gitignore, there is an existing one for Visual Studio. That's the one. And I never know what to put for the license initially. Create the repository. Okay, we're ready to clone and download this thing. Because I have Visual Studio 2015 installed, it does various hooky type things, and so I have this open Visual Studio prompt. Alright, I usually create a directory, C:\code is where I like to keep code. Basically, this is where I put anything that actually comes from some kind of repository in the sky, so I can delete anything in here at any time. It's no big deal. Way it works is you need to go over to Team Explorer, or if you wait a little bit, it pops up for you, and then I choose where I want to clone my repo down to, and there you go, and clone. So all this does is it brings over the repository. It doesn't actually create a solution or anything like that, so I still need to do that. It's not that button. No. You have to go into the repo. Once you've chosen the repo that you want by double clicking on it, then come on, there we go. Now I can say new solution, and it would create it within that repo so that it can get sent up when I commit my changes. Alright, so here's the new project dialog box. I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to choose it to be a console application. Because we already have a repository figured out, I'm not going to have it create a new repository, but I am going to have it create the directory. It looks like we are using .NET 4.5.2. Yep, all good. I think we're good. Alright, so previously this is being built on another document that I did where we created an actual local DB called Star Wars. Well, specifically it's a database within the MS SQL local DB instance. I'm going to open that up and show the data that's currently in there. This is the data that we are going to be querying. So yep, tables person, and then right click on person name, show me the data. It's a little bit slow, and it's hidden because we have the server explorer in the way. I'm going to pin it off to the side, and there's our data that we had from before. So now let's write some code. Okay, I'm probably going to go a little bit fast here. This is stuff that if you were doing C# work in the 2000s, you probably memorized this. You had to type it, well, a couple hundred times or so. So first off, we got SQL connection. That's in some namespace somewhere. Thank you, Visual Studio, for helping me out. And it takes a connection string. So we've talked about these connection strings before. There's a resource that helps you figure them out. I'm actually surprised that I can do this from memory, but it kind of helps that I did the previous document very recently, and so it's kind of fresh. So database name here is Star Wars, and it does not need a username and password because we are using LocalDb. So we have our connection. The first thing we're going to do with the connection is open it. And we are also going to put a little message over there so we can stick a breakpoint on it so we can test this to see if this is working so far. And because Visual Studio likes to immediately close your window when you're done. I stuck a read key at the bottom. So yep, there's the breakpoint. And let's go see what happens. Oh hey, build error. Escape sequence. Alright, you have to double backslash the backslash. Try that again. And here we are at our breakpoint, and we've got the connection. If we hover over that and look inside it, where is it? There it is, state open. So yeah, we have a successful connection to the database and we can do stuff with it. So just for an example, I'm going to make this not Star Wars, but something else instead. Kidding, I actually love Star Trek also. And when we run it this time, and it's in the middle of throwing an exception, this is a VM, it's pretty slow, so it takes a little while for it to bubble up and show up. There it is, and you get a little handy message: cannot open database Star Trek, requested by login. The login failed. You'll also very often get invalid username or password or all kinds of other things that you might get. Hostname not found, all kinds of things, right? So anyway, moving on. So the way things used to work is every connection, you can then send commands down the connection. So I'm creating a command. This is fairly standard across several database engines use this kind of approach. I remember Oracle doing this and Sybase back in the day. Anyway, so command text. This is the SQL statement that you want to run. I'm going to say give me everything in the person table. Oh yeah, change my stuff back to Star Wars, be in the right universe here. And then you want to go and execute the command. In this case I'm saying execute it and bring me back a reader. There's also other various interesting things like XML reader. I haven't ever used that before. That's new for me. So you get a reader. The reader keeps reading records. So as long as there's records to read, I will now read a record. Okay, this part here I made a couple of mistakes initially. I'll point them out as we go. Or I could just leave them be and let them be surprises. The first thing is that the reader basically returns, it's got a row in memory, but in order to get the actual columns out, you have to do these calls to get string or get int, etc. So some readers used to be able to, you give it a column name and it does a nice little lookup for you. This one apparently does not. And here's the other thing, is that how do you know which order the columns are? So you have to go back and change your star to actually specify each column name. And now these are, I forget if this is 1 based or 0 based. I'm pretty sure that my typing self here will figure it out shortly. So yeah, 1 or 0. Let's go check this up. Documentation, please. Hover. There we go, 0 based. So 0 based, that one's 0, this one's 1, and the next one is 2. So here we're trying to fit a decimal, well, it's a numeric 18,2 column. And I did this wrong, I said string, so that's going to bite me here in a moment. Once I've gotten the values back, I'm going to dump them out to console to see what I have got. Okay, here's the other thing I'm doing is I'm changing my IDs to be uppercase. This is entirely a preference thing. It's a habit that I'm starting to form. Alright, setting a breakpoint, and let's go run this thing, see what we get. So here we are at our breakpoint, and I'm going to hit F10 to step through things. And I get to that, and kaboom! Unable to cast type of system.decimal to system.string. Now notice it said system.decimal there in the error message. I didn't catch it initially. I was just going to use decimal because that's what I always used to do, but your classwork talked about doubles a lot, so I said, hey, I'll try a double. And let's try it again. So step, 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 and kaboom. The reason is the size 18 decimal places doesn't fit into a double reliably, and so it doesn't want you to lose precision, and so it just throws an error instead. In fact, SQL Server can hold decimal places way more than C# can, so there's another class called SQL Decimal that lets you do that kind of stuff. Anyway, so back over to decimal. Let's try this again, and it works for the first row, puts it out. Let's go take a look at the output. Yep, Luke Skywalker, 1.72 meters tall, and then it goes on to all the rest, and they all work just great, right? Oh, hello, what's this? Well, so the problem here is that we have a nullable value, and we're saying get me a decimal. We're not saying get me a nullable decimal. So back in the day, we had to deal with this kind of stuff all the time. We had to write this code, said, hey, before we go get that value, is it null? If so, we had to do something else. This is code from before nullable types existed, so we didn't have that option of using the little question mark thing there. And so we'd do stuff like we'd have a boolean for if it was null or not, and then we'd have the actual value, and we would ignore the value if it was null. Anyhow, I'm dating myself. So yeah, we would write this code and read it in. I was hoping it would convert my if then else into a ternary. Is it ternary? The question mark colon operator, but it did not do that for me. Let it go, and there we go. We've got BB8 with null meters. Nulls get written out as empty strings. Alright, so this code looks probably good enough, so I'm going to go ahead and commit it. Oh hey, first time I'm using the Git client here, so it's going to ask me who I am. Enter in my little commit message. Commit. And send up to the server. I'll deal with branching later on. Oh hey, yeah, first time I'm using this Git client thingy to talk to GitHub, so Git asks Windows, can you get me a login there? Windows gives you a little prompt, and then it all works.